Well, hello, and welcome to tonight's video broadcast from Technomadia. I'm Cherie Viard.
Chris Dunphy.
And we're Technomadia. Tonight's topic
we live in the bus.
Oh, yes, and we live in a bus. We are tonight broadcasting on the topic of RVing for introverts. And we're excited to share with you some of how we get along on the road.
Yes,
so we'll
8 years.
We'll start talking about that in just a couple of minutes, but first just want to go over some of the basics. We are broadcasting from an iPad, and we're over cellular bandwidth, so it may cut in and out every so often. Can we get anyone to verify that we are coming through loud and clear on audio and visual? If you can just type in the little chat box in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, we can see your chat comments from there right on our iPad. Today's date is, February 19th. It's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching this at any other time, you're probably watching an archive, which means you can't interact with us. Funny how that happens.
But if you're watching this at some other point in time and you're watching it live, let us know that technology because we could probably figure out some great use for time travel.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Good thing.
That'd be awesome. Yes. So anyway, thank you for joining us this evening. And we're going to go ahead and...
Is there a confirmation of our audio quality?
Coming through great. Fantastic.
Awesome.
So we're going to go ahead and proceed. That we're coming through loud and clear, and you can see and hear us.
We are actually splurging tonight. We have been very conservative with our data plan this month, so we're actually using Verizon LTE.
So we can do this in high def. And
high def recording.
So hopefully It's going to come through nice and clear this time for you guys. So tonight's topic is RVing for introverts, and just want to first off and kind of define what an introvert is. There's a lot of myths out there that introversion means that you're shy, that you don't, that you avoid social contact, and that's not necessarily true. A lot of introverts are very social.
Yeah.
We meet a lot of them on the road. We meet a lot of them in other areas of our lives. So introverts just, they get their energy from alone time or maybe small group gatherings, whereas someone who's extroverted tends to get their energy from larger group gatherings and energy and from maybe conferences, parties, crowds, lots of people. They need lots of people around a lot of time. That's where they get their energy from. Introverts would prefer a smaller gathering. They like to have time to reflect on themselves. A lot of introverts will find they pick up hobbies like writing, blogging. You'll find a lot of introverts in the blogging universe because it's a great way for an introvert to be self-reflected and share. Just because someone's introverted doesn't mean they don't want to share. It just means that they need alone time and they don't necessarily want to be around a lot of people all the time.
So I guess we should confess our types.
Right. So if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs typology, which is the MBTI, that's a personality typing scale. I am an INFJ.
And I am an XNTP.
And those are just all letters to you. Well, that's fine. The most important one is that first letter, which is I or E, introvert or extrovert.
And I'm neither or both. So
yeah, Chris is kind of like right on the line. I looked on Wikipedia. What did they call you?
One of the definitions would be an ambivert. I've taken the Myers-Briggs test several times over my life and have varied from tiny bit E to very, very slightly I to exactly dead in the middle. Mm-hmm. And that does reflect I actually swing to I really want to be alone, go away. I need to recharge. I don't want to talk to people at all. Actually, when I'm in that mode, small groups are too crowded. And the other thing is, I used to make a career out of going to large events and conferences and just soaking in massive amounts of group energy. I love big crowds, and sometimes that's what energizes me, and I kind of go both extremes, or sometimes I kind of combine the two because I like to be very alone in crowds sometimes. Go to big crowds, but be anonymous and an observer. And that's one of my ways of recharging.
That's why conferences and Burning Man and other things like that actually really speak well to introverts like that. I test actually very extreme introvert, and a lot of people are surprised by that when they meet me because when I'm in a presenter mode like I am right now, I come off as being a little more extroverted than I really am. But if you spending time with me in person, you quickly pick up that I drain very easily being around people, especially new encounters, new people, and large groups. Large groups just, I get easily overwhelmed in a large group. If I'm with more than about 4 or 5 people, I just kind of shrink back into the wallpaper.
Yes. It's interesting that a lot of the best presenters and speakers are extreme introverts. That's just seems to be one of the ways that they're compensating, not so much compensating, but one of the ways that they're able to interact with groups is to have a role. So being in charge, being the leader, being the speaker is a way that introverts excel in large groups.
Right. I'm very much able, if I have a role in a group community, so if I'm speaking, if I'm helping host, if I'm helping check people into a conference or something like that, I'm really good about approaching people if I have a purpose. But the word mingle is my scary word. I hate going to large conferences or group things and people just say, go mingle and meet people. Well, that's an extrovert's thing. Us introverts, we tended to sit on the side and then we meet each other. So that works there too. Yes. So a lot of people have asked us how it is that, because we do have a very active social life, especially RVing. If you've been following our blog for the last few weeks and months, actually, because we're just completing 2 months here in Cedar Key, we've been part of a really large convergence of other RVers. There's been how many of us?
I've lost count. It's 30, 40 something have passed through the
I think we've had about 30 or 40 RVs, 50? And that's 1 to 2 people, sometimes 3 or 4 people.
Right, for RV.
Full RV. And that's just the people that have been coming to our campground or the neighboring campground and staying here for more than a few days. So these people that we've gotten a chance to get to know, we've been hosting potlucks and campfires and a couple chats like these. We've been hosting some around helping people out, pick out domicile and banking issues and things like that. So we've been putting out a lot of social energy, and we actually did reach a point. We found where our point is. After about a month of that, we just needed to find days where we didn't see anybody. And that got difficult because we had also, instead of just hosting people who had pre-signed up to come and join us here, we had a lot of people, because we post a lot of pretty pictures about Cedar Key, so they come to Cedar Key just to come and just say hi. And sometimes we'd wake up in the morning with an email and say, hey, I'm coming through in an hour. And then we'd have a knock on the door, and we'd have to be not just ourselves here with our friends and stuff like that. They've gotten to know us, but you kind of have to be in technomadia mode.
Yes, and answer the same, like, oh, great to meet you, and here's the basic questions. Here's the bus was made in 1961, and where are we heading next? Where we just come from? The weather's been in. Okay.
And normally we don't mind those sorts of interactions. We really, we blog because we do love
to meet people.
We love to meet people, and we love to help people learn and find what their goals and dreams are and help them achieve them. So that's why we put the energy out there. It's just been a consistent pace for the last few months, and it did. We reached our overwhelm point. And thankfully, we had a cruise already booked, so we're able to escape on that. But RVing is a very ideal lifestyle for an introvert who wants to travel. And some of the reasons that you actually outlined a couple of them there.
Yes, but the big reason is, when you're a lot of other ways you're traveling, you don't have any choice. If you're traveling with a backpack or luggage or out in the world, you don't have your turtle shell on. With an RV, you've got your turtle shell, and anytime you want to, you're in your house and you are at home and you are in your space, and you could just shut the door and the world can go by without you, and you could recharge. It's carrying your recharger with you.
Right, so a lot of introverts might also identify as being homebodies. That's definitely something that we found on the road is we are homebodies. We like to be at home. We don't like to travel far from our home. We just now drive our home to the places to explore. And we don't tend to venture too far from our RV very often. We do, but not as often.
We prefer to venture on foot and or bike and or kayak and or not drive around once we get someplace.
But we always know after our day of exploring or whatever we're doing, we're coming back to our house. We know where our bed, it's our comfy bed. We know where the silverware is. We know where the dishes are. We know where the wine.
Shower.
We have our own yummy shower. And we have our cat. And of course, cats always add to the home feeling. So we have our recharge place right here with us all the time. So that allows us, even if we're in a social environment, like we have been here in Cedar Key, we've taken breaks, just come back in. We have I'll go get that little sign.
Yes.
A cool little sign that we were gifted. One of our other Cedar Key folks, they gifted us this sign. So we just put this up in our front door, and this lets other people know that we are taking some quiet time, whether we're on a business call or anything else, or taking a nap, or we just need our time.
Introvert time. Yeah.
Introvert time. So this has been very, very useful as a real easy signal for please don't knock on our door, and it's worked really well. Highly recommended if you need to protect your space sometimes, because sometimes in an RV park people just come and knock on your door. Right. So that's the one way we've dealt with it, and just taking some time for ourselves. We'll just take the kayak out and go out for an afternoon on our own, and that's been a great way. So we've been able to get little chunks of our own time here and recharging, just because we have our own house.
Yes, having your own house rocks. Like when you're in a hotel or in a cruise ship cabin or something else, there's people who knock on your door and then try to open it and come in and clean, and you actually have to talk to them to tell them not to, or put a little sign out if you remember that. And yes, it's not nearly as relaxing as having your own house. And for us, oh yes. There's a lot of different styles, and actually I'm sure there's we have found RVing is a great thing for introverts or ambiverts. And
right, and the other thing is you can choose. So if you're feeling that you really need some solitude, you can go find maybe a nice state park that's got huge sites, or where you don't know anybody. You can go drive off and maybe find some public land and just be out on your own with no one else in sight. You need to be some self-sufficiency there and have some boondocking ability, and you'll be power independent and all that other stuff. But you can get out there on your own.
And in the opposite sense was particularly when I was traveling before Cherie, when I was in my ambivert mode of I'm needing people and energy, and I want people to come flock to me on that side of my swing, I would go park my little tab trailer in a public parking lot, someplace cool and exciting, open all the doors and windows, and it would be within 3 minutes I'd have people saying, wow, this is really cool, what's going on here? And next thing I know, the 2 days have passed and I've been on cool adventures with neat people.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, RVing gives you a good balance. You're in control of where you want to be and how social you want to be. I mean, even if you can pull into even a crowded RV park and just, you can be in a cocoon. More than likely, you're never going to see the other people in that RV park again. And it's not like having
nobody's going to judge you for that.
Well, they might, but you never have to really face them because they're moving on the next day, or you are. So it's not like when you live in a neighborhood and you have a house that you're intending to be good neighbors with people for the next 10 years of your life, and you want to have a really nice symbiotic relationship, and so you have to say hi, or you really should go and chat with them about the neighborhood watch or whatever else is going on. You don't have to do that in an RV park. You can be the shy one in a park for a while if you just don't feel the energy of putting out there of interacting with people. And if you are, people usually in RV parks are in a social mode and are more than happy to engage in conversations if you're feeling the desire for that. So those are some of the advantages of RVing that they have for an introvert.
Gives you a lot of control.
Lots of control, and having your own home with you, well, it's a base for exploring and connecting or visiting family or going on business meetings or whatever it is that you're traveling for. So, we highly endorse RVing for us introverts. Some of our tips, so some of the struggles that us introverts have is actually meeting people on the road. We're usually first contact. Extroverts generally don't have as much problem just walking up to somebody and starting a conversation about whatever. Maybe they do, but they usually don't have the shyness to them as much as introverts.
The introverts need to have a reason for that first communication, as opposed to making the extroverts are experts at making that reason up on the fly in the moment.
Right. So it does take getting some practice with approaching people if you're wanting to expand your boundaries. RV parks are a great place. Ask any RVer about their RV, and you'll probably be late for dinner. Because people love to talk about their RVs and share. And if you ask them about their engine or, their how they've decorated or whatever, they'll more than likely just be happy to talk with you, and then before you know it, you're in conversations.
And the more unique your RV, the more it's a conversation starter, and that's often a great blessing. That's been huge with us because we've always had very unique homes on wheels, but it sometimes is hard to get away from too.
Right. It is a blessing and a curse for us. So, that's another tip is have something unique about yourself, and people will approach you. So if you're not feeling the energy to put out there, make that first contact. Have something that has people want to contact you and make that first contact.
Rainbow-colored hair works great.
Yeah, that works great. Wearing a cool hat.
This hat gets so many people to come up to me.
Yeah. We have always had unique RVs. Right now we're at a vintage bus conversion. That's always a conversation starter. And we walk a cat on a leash.
Yes, that's good conversation starter.
Yes. So have something unique. I mean, it might be wearing T-shirts with cool sayings on it. Might be carrying balloons around. I don't know. Do something funky and unique that has people want to say, hey, that's cool. I mean, we had a guy in the RV park here about a month ago who rode around in a Segway that had 2 coolers attached to each side and put his dogs in it.
And
now that's a
little
conversation
holes
starter.
cut out in the back of the coolers for the dogs to wag their tails as he segued down the road. It was amazing, and I'm sure he had no trouble starting conversations.
Yeah. So it is a curse for us sometimes, especially with the vintage bus. If we're feeling more introverted and not wanting to engage in conversations with lots of people, sometimes we really wish we could just flip a switch and the bus would just convert into a more generic looking RV so that we could blend in or not be as on the radar. So, okay. And another thing is introverts, we tend to like deeper connections with people. We love the deeper connections, people that we can be ourselves with and talk about the real things that are kind of introspective in our minds. And RVing tends to have itself, because you're just usually in a short period of time with people, you don't have the time necessarily to get to that depth quickly. So RVing can tend to have a lot of social interactions that are more surface level, where you're talking about the RV or the cat on the leash or the weather.
And over and over and over again, too, because those are the topics of conversation often in the RV park, because you'll have 4 people in a row come by to talk to you about the cat on the leash or the RV.
Right.
Or
and an introvert can get drained by that if they're not also getting a chance to actually be themselves and talk about the deeper things with themselves. So, us traveling with each other where we can be real with each other is great. And we cherish when we find other people that we can be ourselves with and just have those deeper, meaningful conversations and let loose. And, it's such a blessing when you can find people that you can just be quiet with in the same room. It's awesome.
Nice.
So when we find people that we can have those sorts of friendships with, we go out of our way to continue to meet up with them, whether they're fellow RVers or they're people who we've met who live stationary lives who love to entertain nomads like ourselves. So we've cherished those friendships that we've made over the years, and those help refuel us and keep us going so that we can continue to have the same conversations over and over again about how old is your bus? And the other things that people are invariably going to be asking us about.
It's kind of flashed me back to, I guess, one ambivert introvert trick I used to do when I was living in San Francisco is I'd host antisocial hours on occasion, where people were invited over to just chill and not talk, not be social. The social time was actually afterwards. We'd have 3 or 4 hours of do your own project. Come over, the door's unlocked, hang out. Bring your computer, bring your knitting, whatever, hang out, no talking, until 3 or 4 hours pass, and then, we've all just kind of let the day slide away, and now it's time to be social. It was a great way to swing from relax, be chilled, and very inward focused, but with company, and then switch to social mode. It was one of my old tricks.
Yeah, it's a good one. If we had more space, we could do that.
Yeah, we could have antisocial hours.
Yeah, so that's really, really great. And another thing is meeting people on the road. Blogging is a great way to meet people. It's one reason we continue to put so much energy into broadcasting a little bit about our lives out there, is that gives people a reason to come to us. But even if you don't feel like being a blogger yourself, is if you interact with bloggers, commenting on their posts, maybe even emailing them offline if you prefer not to be as public about it, Facebook interactions and things like that. That's a great way to meet people. You have a purpose for approaching them when you actually see them in the RV park. So that's a fantastic way as well. Yep. There are, if you're involved in forums and groups, whether they're RVing groups like on Facebook or some of the forums out there, those are great ways to meet other RVers and then plan rendezvous and meetups in your travels. It's a great way to meet people that way. Or if you have special interests, maybe you're into knitting or computers or hackerspace or fetish stuff or Burning Man or whatever, you can find groups as you travel around and introduce yourself, and then you have a kind of a little bit of a built-in network. You can go to their open social hours that they have. It's a great way we've done that.
Co-working hours.
Co-working hours or whatever. So those are great ways to meet people in your travels as well. And we're actually... you'll be hearing a lot about community on the road from us in the Secret Project.
Give a tip.
I'll give a tip. It has something to do with this topic.
Okay.
So yeah, we're really excited about. Some of you watching may be in the know about it because we've been
previewing it here in Cedar Key.
But we're really excited about something that's coming out soon. That's going to really, really help with this and meeting people on the road. So that's our little hint. It'll be soon.
Very soon. Very soon. And or if you've been in Cedar Key, you might know.
So, that's our story on introversion and RVing, and we're sticking to it. If you have any questions or comments about that, we do welcome questions. We'll just kind of now open up to a Q&A session. You can ask about introversion, RVing. It can be other topics as well, anything from working on the road, connectivity, technology, anything that we might be able to answer. We'll start taking questions. So if you would like to interact with us, if you haven't already found it, in the upper right-hand corner of the screen in most browsers is a little chat link. You go there, and you can type in your questions there, and we'll be happy to answer those for us. I'm going to bring the iPad a little closer to my face so I can actually read it and see if anyone has questions already for us. Go ahead and start putting those in.
It's like a thumbprint scanner.
That's just my thumbprint scrolling your comments. I'm just seeing if there's anything that we've missed so far while you guys queue up your questions for us. Okay. Question. Are we planning to stay in Florida, or do you have plans to travel out west? So we will be in Florida for a few more weeks, a couple more weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, something like that.
For the other states than Florida to thaw.
Yeah, apparently it's colder much north of here.
We've been complaining about the weather a lot here in Cedar Key. It's gotten below freezing like twice. It's been very uncomfortable. But I guess apparently some people in other places have barely gotten above freezing, and so we're getting very little sympathy. Yeah, so we're planning. We've got some reservations at some parks around Central Florida for the next couple of weeks. Visiting family. We'll be in Brooksville, Spring Hill, Clearmont, and Melbourne, I think, are our next major stops. Our schedule, if you go to our blog, the schedule's always on the sidebar. You can always go look up where we're going to be. We do have a commitment. We are going back to the Lighthouse in Oregon at Cape Blanco. We're hosting in the months of September and October. So we'll be making our way to Oregon. We'll probably take a slow roll across the country. And then Camp Nomadia is very likely to return.
Yes, so Burning Man tickets go on sale next week. You have to be registered tomorrow. So we are planning to put our name in the hat to get Burning Man tickets and hosting Camp Nomadia again. So if that comes together.
Nevada in August is also on the radar.
Yes. Okay. say, and I'm an introvert, and my husband is an extrovert. He meets people and tries to draw me in. Does this happen with you too?
I'm going to sneeze.
He's going to sneeze.
Excuse me.
For us, I am definitely more introverted than Chris is.
Yes.
But I don't think you're so extroverted that you don't normally bring
Cherie brings out the introvert in me, so I'm
a bad influence, is what you're saying.
No, not a bad influence. It's being right on the fence. I can go both ways on that regard. So I'm particularly around Cherie, not usually in my most extroverted self.
Yeah, but if you go out and about, I mean, you're not likely even to just like when you're walking around the campground on your own, you're not as likely to just go out and.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't because that's as kind of a mode I swing into only sometimes, and I don't swing into it very, very often.
Yeah, but there are times where he'll be out and like here in Cedar Key, just walking to the dumpster can take an hour sometimes just because we've had so many friends. So.
Yeah,
but
some days.
But it's not been an issue for us. Yeah. I don't think our spread is that drastic.
Yeah, and I'm very introvert sensitive too. So like, oh wait, Cherie's not in social time, so I will actually often what it is I play the social interceptor. Is if Cherie's in recharge mode, I'm always the designated answer the phone person. I'm usually the designated answer the door person, and sometimes I have to play interference of like, not social time now. Okay, not social time now. I will be the designated, so I will step outside and handle the social interactions and keep the inside safe.
Yeah, and sometimes I am actually feeling much more extroverted.
And then sometimes I'm the one hiding in the
right,
back,
and sometimes I'll hear him outside talking to somebody, and I'll pop out and to be right there with him. So it's not like I'm a complete loony bin.
No, not loony bin at
all. Let's see. Someone made a comment that everyone is being introverted, not asking questions. So,
there's also the when are we in Cape Blanco?
Yeah, we already answered that.
You said September, October?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we already answered that.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Let's see. So yeah, keep asking your questions. This is not the time to be introverted. We don't know. We don't see pictures of you. We're the one exposing ourselves here.
Yes.
Someone asked, I wonder if a similar age groups tend to flock together. Is it difficult being on the younger side to make connections with people? It was when we first hit the road. It was a lot more difficult because we hit the road. Well, you hit the road solo in 2006, and then I met him and joined him in 2007. For the first couple of years on the road, it was really hard for us to meet peers. I mean, we'd meet great people in campgrounds, and we
were always the unusual ones.
Yeah, well, we're in the little tab trailer.
We were unusual on so many different vectors.
And the new RVer community, that's NURVERS, is a whole community of younger-minded people. It's not necessarily tied to age, but we do tend to have other people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s who are working on the road. And that community has been a blessing for a lot of us. And that came about, I think it was about 2008 when we discovered that community and started connecting it and meeting a lot of our age peers. And a lot of us do tend to plan rendezvous and meetups around the country, and that's helped a lot.
But in the regard, and like the age peers in that regards is 20s to 60s, so it is a really wide range. It's more of a mentality that is kicked in there.
Yeah, finding people who might, we like to be more active, kayaking and
cocktails. Yes.
And kayaking and cocktails, the good things, and finding people that we can talk tech with and talk about conscious life choices and a lot of the deeper things in our lives is just been wonderful. So actually, we feel right now that it's not difficult for us to meet people within a decade or two of our age. No. For the record, we're both 40. Well, no, you're 41 now.
I'm 41.
Yes. But we've been on the road since our early 30s. Let's see. Maybe put in our window a sign that says the bus is to 61. I'll show you what we have printed up. Put it away because we're getting ready to move tomorrow. But we actually had this that we put in the front of the bus when we're stopped somewhere. It's just an information sign, tells a little bit about the engine and all this other stuff, and that we just leave that on there and hope that it answers a lot of questions about people just passing by in a campground. That helps. Actually made this up for the Tin Can Tourist Rally last year.
And now we get to put it out again because we're going to the Tin Can Tourist Rally again.
So that does actually help a lot. But it doesn't. If we're out and about, a lot of people, they prefer to talk instead of just read.
And
that's
often
great.
we prefer that too. It's just, we like to have the option.
Yes. Oregon Lighthouse.
Do you like driving your motorhome better than pulling a trailer? They're both, it's very different. I guess there's kind of an extreme. Like pulling the tab, particularly the small trailer with the small Jeep, you can go down any road. You can ford creeks and go down crazy dirt roads and do a U-turn anywhere a car could. So that was actually really fun to drive around with the Jeep pulling the tab. And when we got bigger, the trailer became more of a problem. Not a problem, but less fun to drive, more mental awareness needed, more awareness of where your roads go, particularly when we switched from the Jeep to the Tundra. We no longer had four-wheel drive, and we had the Tundra's turning radius. The Jeep could do a turn in the space of 2 lanes of traffic. The Tundra has the same turning radius as our bus does. So suddenly we were no longer nearly so maneuverable, but it was a very comfortable vehicle to be in. So on the other hand, the motorhome is just, you're moving your whole house. I'm driving a bus. And driving a bus is fun. So I don't know. They both have good things and bad things about them.
Yeah, that's like saying, do you like having apples or oranges better? Well, you like oranges better.
Yeah, I don't like apples.
But
I
like
to compute on my apples. I don't like to eat them.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm buying an RV soon, a Class A, looking at Rexall and Damon. Do you know what RV are made better than others like Airstream? We're really not up to date on the various RV manufacturers. Yeah. We have a bus conversion. We've kind of stayed out of the traditional RVing path. We
weren't particularly drawn to the traditional ones. The ones what some of the best ways to look at like the really high quality RVs are ones that are not sold through dealers, the ones that are made to order, because those are always made to a very high specification, or the ones that are sold very high end but then get them several years later after they've been through a major round of depreciation. The quality drops off precipitously as you get to the RVs that are being made to sell and made for dealers to sell and made for dealers to have huge markups on. And there's not a lot of them that are honestly very impressive. So you've got to do your research.
Yeah,
do a lot of research.
Do your research. Find the user groups for the RV manufacturers that you are considering, and just read. Keep in mind that most people don't post, hey, everything's great. But, read about the problems that people have, ask questions there, because those are going to be the people most experienced with those specific models that you're looking at. Read reviews. Go look at a 5-year-old one of what you're looking at and see how they age. And but as far as making specific recommendations on manufacturers, we're totally the wrong people to ask.
Ones we cannot really comment
on. We tend to go for very unique setups that... so someone says, when we were in Cedar Key mid-January, you guys seemed to be very busy with guests, etc. Did the experience bother you? We came to Cedar Key knowing that we were going to have...
it was awesome and energizing and also...
overwhelming.
Doing guests, being in kind of in host mode every day.
Constantly. We enjoyed every single interaction that we had individually with people.
Right.
That was, I don't think we had a single interaction itself that was bothering or overall. It was all fantastic.
It was not having days off.
Yes, it was basically we'd go from a scheduled lunch with somebody who's coming in town, and then we get back to our bus in the afternoon, and we would have someone approach us who we hadn't had a previous knowledge that were coming in town, whether they came in town hoping to meet us, or they just happened to randomly be in, and it was like, so we had to go.
And they're really excited. It's like, oh my gosh, I get to meet you guys, and this is awesome, and we're excited to meet somebody and hear the stories and swap the stories and stuff, but also we're drained too because
we hadn't even had a chance to come in and check our work email
it's a tough thing to balance.
So if we had been able to spread out the social interactions and have more time to ourselves, it would have been a lot better. That was the issue. It was just the pace of it that was overwhelming to us. And it was nothing to do with any individual or any encounter or the guest. We enjoyed it all. It's just we needed more downtime for ourselves, and we weren't able to carve that out. it would be better. So the next question that someone asks is, we've never met you personally. What is the best way to approach you in person? So that's a great segue into the question, is we really prefer that if someone wants to meet us and is making an effort to come out and see us, is that they contact us in advance.
Yeah.
Give us a heads up, because if someone's making the effort, I want to have the time made for them.
And also, I want to be able to have a chance to learn a little bit about them, because we have all these like one-sided interactions where people have read all our stuff, seen our videos and everything, and we don't have any context for them at all. So if they've got a blog, or if at least send us an introductory email, so we've got some questions for them as well. So it becomes more of a two-way conversation, as opposed to we're getting question after question after question. It's like, well, I want to know who you are too. I want to know these people.
Right, and sometimes we do have some people who come up to us. They come to the location where they know that we're at for their own reasons, not just to meet us. We're not that ego-headed. But they introduce themselves, and they express that they would love to spend time with us. But it's like, we've already got things booked up. We're working. We have to get in work hours. We have a cat to worship. That's very important. And we have our own life and our own things. And especially in this situation, we have a lot of social stuff going on. And we might have another commitment. Yeah. And having people just show up and put out that expectation that they'd like to spend time with us, I would much prefer have
a little heads up.
But
it doesn't always work that way.
No, and there are times where people just randomly find us, where we just pull into a campground and they say, "Oh my gosh, I recognize that bus," and that's wonderful. And we love those serendipitous encounters.
And if that happens, I would really hate that somebody wanted to approach us and didn't. You know, those serendipitous encounters are sometimes magic, you know.
Yes, and we've had some wonderful ones. They really are wonderful, and we really do appreciate them. And we really respect that people get past their hesitation and come up and introduce themselves.
So embrace serendipity, but also if you're like planning to come stalk us, call ahead. But if you see us out on the road, like, jump out and say, "Hey, wow, awesome, love to meet you."
Just don't knock on our door if our blinds are closed.
And the quiet time sign.
Yeah, the quiet time's up. Yeah, that's the only thing there. Let's see. Let's see. In Arizona, more and more folks are moving into their RVs full time due to the cost of living going up, and where I'm at, all the landlords have raised their rent $50, so full time is growing. There's no question there. Awesome. Okay. Did you look at the Jeffatech or the DDWRT router before you bought a Wi-Fi Ranger? If so, what sold you on the Ranger? So
I've actually played with the DDWRT. I've never heard of the Jeffatech, but the DDWRT is an open source firmware that will actually run on several different routers, and I had that running on one of my routers back when I was in San Francisco before I hit the road. And it lets you do a lot of awesome, cool sysadmin-y things. And as a former sysadmin, I don't want to have to be doing a lot of sysadmin-y things and spending hours and hours configuring my router to jump through hoops and stuff. And that's actually what really sold me on Wi-Fi Ranger, is they were very focused on simplicity and trying to make it as, I won't say dumbed down, but as focused on what an RVer wants. If I want to get on, if I've got a Wi-Fi signal and it's fast enough, get me on the Wi-Fi, and if there's no Wi-Fi, then automatically switch over to cellular. And
what really sold us on Wi-Fi Ranger was we actually borrowed a friend's who had bought it. He wasn't quite ready to go full timing, so we borrowed it to see if it would work for us before. It was kind of a try before you buy sort of thing. Right. And Chris was having a couple little issues with it and went into their forums that they had at the time and got into direct communication with the head of the company and was getting direct support. Right. And just that level of attention to detail.
Yeah, that he cared about the issues. And it's like, and then I was technical enough to help him identify them. And we actually tracked down a really obscure mid-level routing layer bug in the hardware of the routers. And it was like deep network geeking. We had also all these late night chats trying to debug this thing because I was technical and he was technical.
So really, that level of customer support has been what has impressed us about Wi-Fi Ranger versus going with some of the other larger companies that we just don't get that direct access with.
Or things like DDWRT, which is if you want to play and hack, go for it. That's great. You can do amazing things. Go play, but you're not going to have anybody hold your hand ever. And that's fine, because sometimes that's fun, and I enjoy that sometimes too.
And for that sort of, because we tend to write a lot about tech and mobile tech on the road, those sorts of things are great. The geeks out there love that. They're not coming to our blog to get advice on what works without having to do that level of sysadmin. So we like to concentrate on the things that the average person is going to be able to use on the road and not need a lot of support on. So that's one reason we like Wi-Fi Ranger. And the Pepwave Soho, you've actually gotten some good...
the Pepwave Soho is decent. That is kind of has more... of the router infrastructure and complex settings exposed. So if you know what you're doing, you can do some neat tricks with the Pepwave Soho. Right. But I still go back to I just plug in the Wi-Fi Ranger. Right?
Yeah, and the support we get from them. Those are the reasons that we like Wi-Fi Ranger. And just for the record, we are now beta testers for them, so we do get pre-release stuff, and we get it for free. We don't actually buy our equipment from them.
Which comes with the price of it doesn't usually work for a while.
Right, and we usually spend many, many hours working with them to debug and build.
But we get to play with the new toys.
So it's not like we get it for free. It's just we're exchanging our time and advice to them for the equipment and the ability to share with others what works and what doesn't. Let's see. Any suggestions on ways to enjoy the outside of the bus at a campground and yet still send a very clear note signal to the more social folks? I find if you try that face, that works really well.
I guess you could maybe put up a sign saying, "Really seriously, don't bug me." Just like
But it is difficult to spend time outside in a campground. It depends on how.
No, I actually do have a secret for that though. It's called your feet, and you walk off into the wilderness, and this has actually been my thing. I sometimes love to go for hikes by myself, find a rock someplace, and that is some of my favorite introvert time is just to get alone out in the wilderness. It's very hard to do that in a campground sitting in your lounge chair, though, because people will approach you.
Apparently, there's supposed to be a universal symbol for RVers and RV parks that if you face your chair towards the road, that means you're social. If you face it towards your rig or away, you're supposed to mean don't approach me. I don't know how well it works. One reason that we went from the small trailers to the bus is that we just found that being outside in an RV park, because in the small space, we needed to be outside. That was part of our living room. It just had too many people coming up to talk with us when we're like in the middle trying to work on a laptop or something. So we wanted something larger where we would be comfortable for extended periods of time inside. And being outside with computers doesn't work so well. There's usually bugs and glare and stuff like that.
I've done a lot of computing outside, though, so I kind of like it sometimes.
All right. Do you use DirecTV or DishNet for your TV? We actually don't watch TV.
We use Netflix for TV. We watch quite a bit. You watch Star Trek every night.
But not traditional TV. We don't do broadcast TV.
There's no commercials in Netflix.
So the ways that we watch TV is we'll either buy a TV series that we enjoy
get the whole series on
Blu-ray. That way we can watch it high quality without commercials and not worrying about bandwidth. We do have an AT&T iPad, truly unlimited data plan, unthrottled, that's grandfathered in, that we can stream video on by Netflix. So that's how we get the content. And when we have access to good Wi-Fi, we'll also download series on iTunes. But we don't do traditional over-the-air broadcast
we
TV.
do have a television antenna and a TV tuner card.
I don't think we've ever used it.
No, we watched The Voice last year. But I mean, I think we've watched 2 shows, and that we don't really watch anything over there.
We don't like planning our lives around someone else's schedule. Someone says, and what internet service works for you on the road? If you go to technomadia.com/internet, that is our mobile internet resource center, and we have lots and oodles of content that we've written there. There's one, look for the illustrated guide to our mobile internet gadgetry. It's an extensive list of stuff that we use. But basically our Verizon MiFi through Millennicom is the base of it, the Wi-Fi Ranger. And
our AT&T iPhones.
We also have our iPhones and AT&T, and we have a mobile share data plan on that we use. That's the basis of it, but lots of articles on there. We even have a book on the subject called the Mobile Internet Handbook that goes through how to assess your own needs, set your expectations, and gives you lots of information on that. So it's a great way to get some to support us and send us a little cash for in exchange for a great book. How is the new MiFi device working?
It's working awesome.
Yes, the new Pantech that Millennicom is shipping is working great, and Chris did a review of it a few weeks ago. You'll see that at the top of the mobile tech area.
And I would never have really trusted a video stream like this to go through the old...
No, so we're running through it right now. So if this is coming through clear, then that's
it's working beautifully.
It's doing some pretty high bandwidth stuff right now. So if this is coming through clear, then that's your proof that the MiFi is working great. Rexall is one of those not related.
Yeah.
Do you notice any difference in various areas of the country as far as people being more or less introverted? I don't know. I don't go out and ask people if they're introverted or extroverted. I'm an introvert.
Yeah, and I think in some areas of the country, people are more likely to approach strangers than others. And actually, we were having some people share their experience up in Maine the other day.
Right, yes. I don't know. We've not RV'd up in Maine and New York, but someone said that they were up in Maine, and there people kind of keep to themselves. They don't tend to approach you even if you have a weird bus conversion. But they would notice that the only people that would approach them would be people with
New York and Connecticut plates.
Right. So maybe there is some regional differences. I don't think I have a strong correlation to relate on that though. I can't imagine just popping in and cold knocking on someone's door. It's not something I would do either, and it kind of always surprises us when we get a knock on the door.
Yes, and particularly when you're cold knocking and then a random stranger says, "I hear you work on computers. Can I get tech support on my Windows thing?"
Like, no.
Who are you? It's 9 a.m.
People complaining about the cost of the Wi-Fi Ranger? Yes. Yes, quality stuff costs.
Yeah.
What kind of kayak do you have? It is an inflatable by Sea Eagle. We've got the 370 Pro package, and we've been very happy with it. Wearing headphones, someone says. If you wear headphones when you're outside, that's a don't talk to me. That could work as well. A lot of people sending thank you. We always appreciate
awesome.
those.
Yeah, Technomadia thrives on positive feedback. So
yes.
If you like our stuff, comment, say so, let us know, because
we're not broadcasting ourselves out there just to hear ourselves talk.
Right.
We're doing it to hopefully help reach others,
and when people appreciate it, then that is what lights us up. That's why we do it.
Right. And this is all our gift. We if you'll notice, there's hardly any advertising except for our own products. We have our mobile internet handbook. We have our No Excuses series, which goes over a lot of the logistics, and that's a free series you can read online.
And if there's been any commercial interruptions during this, that's Ustream, because we're not paying. We're using a free Ustream account. Ustream is running their own commercials to
right. So we're not trying to overly monetize the blog with ads and doing link backs and all that other stuff. So, but we do appreciate people who reach out. So the greatest thing someone can do is say thank you and how we've helped them or something like that. Please don't send us a list of 40 questions though.
Ask us first. Ask us. Hey, I've got a project. Can I ask?
Right. We also are starting to experiment with offering what we call Pick Our Brain sessions.
Right.
So for people that would like some individualized guidance, like asking a Q&A like this, but have it be one-on-one and private, we'll help you with your unique situations and answering your questions. We are now offering some, we're experimenting with it to see if that works for us. Because we do have a lot of people that write and ask, can I pick your brains? And unfortunately,
if we said yes to everyone,
we'd have no time.
Yes.
Since we shut down our main business, most of our income right now is based upon the app sales of coverage and state lines and the ebooks. So we have to be putting a lot of energy right now into building up new income sources, which we are. So we just don't have the time to be spending. We spend about 20 to 30 hours a week on the blog and providing content and doing chats like these. We just don't also have the time to be answering a lot of extensive questions. Quick questions, great. But if you would like individualized sides, we do offer the Pick Your Brain sessions. Yep. And we do also have contribute buttons now on the blog if you'd like to contribute to us as well. Let's see.
Boondock more in the future. Adding solar cross. I just sent out some query emails just yesterday poking on the latest developments in solar.
So someone asked, do we have any plans to boondock more in the future? So we used to boondock a lot in the smaller trailers. We have not yet outfitted the bus with solar. Last summer we looked into it pretty deeply and came to the conclusion that the flexible solar panels that we want to put on there had not yet
gotten to the reliable state that we would want them in.
Right. So we're kind of, since we knew that we're going to be on the pole anyway for the winter being in Florida, we decided not to rush that project, and especially with having to rebuild the engine last summer. That kind of made us less likely to want to spend lots of money on the bus right away. But this summer we might be approaching that. That is one thing we have on the radar. We're keeping an eye open to it, and so yeah, we could do kind of a little more autonomy. Any travel plans for the next few months? So we're in Florida for a couple more weeks, and then we're going to be generally heading towards Oregon. Nothing really planned until we get to the lighthouse in September.
Did we see the flexible solar that Gone with the Wind's found? I saw their other solar was
they just got some.
They got something new.
Yeah, I think it might be the same ones there. I haven't looked too deeply.
Okay, I'll take a look. I check the blog every so often. They usually do some interesting stuff, and I'll see if it's potential fit for us.
Someone asked me, how about the Android coverage app?
Oh, on the cruise, I was actually working on a new engine that would potentially make coverage more portable than the current one.
Yeah, right now it would be, we've gotten estimates of porting coverage. It's five figures. Yeah. It's solidly 5 figures to hire someone to do it. And honestly, coverage for iOS has barely earned that much in the 3 years we've had it. So we did port state lines to Android. A developer did that for us for splitting the proceeds. And it's selling about 1 to 3, 1 to 2 copies of state line. So we can only anticipate that coverage would have about half the sales figures of the iOS version. So we just can't justify
investing a lot up front.
In that.
But we're doing some groundwork that should make it easier for a third-party developer if somebody wants to tackle the project. And we've got somebody who's interested in this, that when this underlying change is done, should make it easier to potentially port to...
right. And as someone just posted, Android users don't normally pay for apps. And that is true.
The big reason we're not really been putting too much energy into it.
So the state lines experiment has, unfortunately, proven our intuition that... it would not be a profitable or even break-even situation to invest. But perhaps the new engine, we do have a new app that's of similar vein that's coming out soon, and the new engine might make it a lot easier
to port.
So
less tied
investment
to old Apple technology.
We're keeping an eye on it, but it's just the two of us, and coverage itself on iOS is barely breaking even as is. So just to keep the maps up to date. It takes about 20 hours to update those maps. So, we can't just keep putting time into things that don't compensate us. Let's see. I appreciate your positive passion about your bus and its breakdown. Many would have tossed it, but you guys hung in there in the tin can event. Is your bus an attraction?
Oh, well, last year we didn't even know there was going to be this big public tour thing, and then so we were caught off guard that our bus was an attraction at the Tin Can Tourist.
Yeah, because everyone just tours it. I don't think it. I mean, Tin Can Tourist is more about trailers.
Right.
The bus was just kind of an anomaly, and it was kind of weird for people to come in because most people at Tin Can Tourist are not full timers. These are their passion projects, and they would come out to the road.
And they're all staged and decorated, to showcase. And ours is a house, and it's got stuff in it.
Yeah, so people are expecting to come in and have the inside look vintage as well, and ours is a house.
Some people come in who think that it's okay to open drawers and cabinets, which.
Yeah, it was really weird last year, so we'll see how it goes.
But it was fun to do, and we're going to have a good time at this rally again. We might not give as many tours as we did last year.
Yeah, we may not open the bus up for tours as many tours. It was we pretty much took the two of us managing tours because ours is so much larger. A lot of the trailers are 16, 17 feet long, and one person can sit there and do it. But for us, we had to kind of do a pre-show outside the bus to get people prepped for it while the rest of the tour inside the bus was going on. It was fun. It was overwhelming, but it was fun for a while too. I think we've reached the end of the questions, and we're going on about an hour right now, I think.
Perfect.
We very much appreciate you joining us, and for another video chat. We try to do these about once a month on different topics. And if you have topics that you'd like us to cover in the future, feel free to let us know.
Maybe take requests. These are fun.
We're going to say good evening for now, and we'll see you online next month. Write us. Interact with us. Leave comments. We love that stuff.
Comments good.
All right.
Even just a comment saying hi. That's good.
Yes. So, good night.